Hi everyone, this is Miss Valancourt and we're going to be talking about rocks today. So there are three main types of rocks. There are sedimentary, metamorphic, and igneous. We're going to start out by talking about the sedimentary. So the sedimentary rocks, I wrote it in brown because when I think of sedimentary rocks, I think of things like sand and dirt, clay, those types of materials. So sedimentary rocks are a class of rocks, and there are some examples here. There's tufa, limestone, sandstone, shale, and conglomerate. So the sedimentary rocks are formed by bigger materials being eroded down into smaller materials. And then when they're put under pressure and compacted, they form a rock. So the texture of these rocks, for example, the sandstone, if you were to feel it, it feels a lot like sandpaper. It's gritty because it's made of sand that's been compacted. If you find a rock in your yard that by chance has a fossil in it, you're most likely looking at a sedimentary rock. Another way to test for a sedimentary rock is if you have some vinegar at home, you can do what we call the acid test. So for example, on limestone here, when I put the acid on here, you can see that it fizzes up, kind of like peroxide when you put peroxide on a cut. And on this one, okay, these two particular rocks, the limestone rocks, they have something in them called calcite. And calcite is what makes the vinegar fizz. These are typically made up of like bones and teeth, things like that. Dead sea critters is what I like to call them. And then they've been on the bottom of the water, and that pressure and the compaction forms a rock. And then we also have shale, which is a very soft rock. You've probably seen shale around. And conglomerate. And if you look at conglomerate, you can see that there are tiny pieces of other rocks all cemented together to form one big rock. So these are your sedimentary rocks. Okay, so they're formed by erosion and compaction. So now we're going to take a look at metamorphic rocks. So metamorphic means changed. So these are rocks that were once a different type of rock, but due to intense heat and pressure became a different rock. So some examples here are marble, slate, and mica. So in the mica, you can kind of see if I can get this to focus, different lines here. You can see them. We call that foliation. So when a rock is pushed under great pressure, you get these bands that form. We call that foliation. So you might be thinking, slate looks a lot like shale. And it does. This is actually the metamorphic form of shale. You get slate. So under great heat and pressure, this becomes slate. And the limestone that we looked at under great heat and pressure becomes marble. So these are the changed rocks. Then the last type of rock we're going to look at, these are my favorite. These are the igneous rocks. And igneous means of fire. So these rocks were formed due to some kind of volcanic activity. So, okay, there's three types here. There's pumice. Pumice is one that you've probably seen around your house. Sometimes people use it to clean tile in the bathroom or remove dead skin off their feet. It's light and it floats on water. That means it's less dense than water. So igneous, this particular igneous rock formed when lava was like thrown into the air and it cooled super fast. And so these little bubbles were actually air that was trapped. And that's why it's less dense than water. It's got all that air trapped in it. Granite is one of the most common rocks found on the earth. Is an intrusive igneous rock, which means it never left the center, it never left the crust. It cooled underneath the layer of crust, and it cooled slowly. And that is why you'll see some large crystals in here. It's very pretty, shiny. Obsidian, this is what we call volcanic glass. This formed above the surface of the Earth, cooled so quickly that there are no crystals. Crystals didn't even have time to form in this particular rock. Also, if you hold this one up to the light, you can see through it. So that is pretty cool. So those are the three major groups of rock: sedimentary, metamorphic, and igneous.